Recap for Dexter Season 4, Episode 3, entitled Blinded by the Light. All right, so we've got the Trinity storyline that moves forward quite a bit in this episode, and we also have a side story with Dexter and a neighborhood watch that starts in his neighborhood. This episode starts with Dexter having kind of like a barbecue with the neighborhood, and there's like 4 or 5 families there. He's seeing that he's now being considered one of the neighborhood, and they're all experiencing some vandalism and some other things that are happening in the neighborhood. So they decide to start a neighborhood watch, and they all have their parts to play. Now, Dexter decides he's going to take it upon himself to find out who's doing all of this, and he thinks he found the perpetrator. One night he gets a face that's kind of a smiley face that's painted on his, the gate to his home. And so he finds the can of spray paint off to the side and takes it to the police department and gets the fingerprints and finds out that it's one of his neighbor's kids is doing this. So he decides he's going to go scare the kid. Well, when he does this, he gets, a mask on. He goes to scare the kid as he's walking down the street when the neighbor right next to him has these floodlights that show on him, and he gets chased by the neighborhood watch. So he has to get away. He feels embarrassed. Later goes back to finish the job and scare the snot out of this kid to find the kid sleeping in his bed. And he finds out that it's actually the father that is actually causing all the trouble in the neighborhood. His wife had died a few years previous. He's about to lose his house, and he's got nothing to lose. Dexter does scare the crap out of him to get him to stop. So that's where we're at that. And the very last scene in this episode is him breaking the lights to his neighbor as he's going home. He doesn't like the light shining on him. So he breaks those lights, and that's why it's called Blinded by the Light. But lo and behold, Rita is standing there watching him break the lights. So that's what we have with Dexter. Now, Dexter also had another side story with Quinn. Quinn is still trying to buy him off. Tries to get him tickets to the Dolphins football game, and he goes and has a conversation with Dexter because Dexter does not accept the tickets. He gives them to Masuka. Masuka then tries to get someone else to go with him, and he was actually there trying to tell Quinn, hey, I got these tickets. You guys want to go? So Quinn was there, and Deborah was there, and that's when Quinn takes the tickets out of his hand, and Masuka's like, are you going to pay me for those? And they were his tickets originally. So he goes to have a conversation, not Masuka, but Quinn goes to have a conversation with Dexter when Dexter's in his laboratory. And he says, what is it going to take? What is it going to take? And that's when Dexter says, I don't care that you're a dirty cop. Quinn takes offense to that and says, I'm not a dirty cop. I put my life on the line every day, something you'll never understand because you're not one of us. And Dexter's like, look, I'm sorry. I really don't care. So hopefully that gets, Quinn to back off a little bit. Dexter really doesn't care. He doesn't have time for that. He's got other fish to fry, so he doesn't care. And that's where we're left with that. There is a scene also with Quinn sleeping with the reporter, and all he's doing is complaining about Dexter. So it seems like this isn't going to be the end of it. It's going to kind of bug Quinn for a while. Now let's talk about the Trinity storyline. We have John Lithgow does have another victim in this episode. He kidnaps that woman from the previous episode, the mother who was walking in the neighborhood going home. We find out that she has a couple of kids and a husband, and he takes her and makes her jump off of a building. It looks like it's about 6 stories high, and kills herself out by a pier. And the police department thinks she's committed suicide. Now, Lundy doesn't believe that she's committed suicide. This is the MO of the Trinity killer, and warned Dexter that something like this could happen. And that's when Lundy says, do some research on this woman, find out if she has a couple of kids and, it has a husband. And come to find out, everything that he said was going to happen happened. So he thinks that this is definitely tied to the Trinity killer. And that's pretty much all we have in this episode as far as Trinity goes. We just have John Lithgow scared her into jumping, brought her up to the top of the building and had her hang off, and said it's a warehouse actually that has stories on it out by the pier. And he says, if you don't jump, if you don't willingly do it, then I'm going to go after your kids and I'm going to kill them one by one and make them jump as well. And that's when she finally lets go. she said, "You're going to have to push me." He wouldn't do it, and that's when he threatened her with her kids. So she does jump and does get killed. And Deborah believes in Lundy, and there's also the storyline with her getting closer to Lundy and getting more irritated with Anton at home. Anton gets a job at home, so he's going to be there every day instead of traveling, and it kind of upsets Deborah. He even comes to work one night and wants to see if she wants to go get dinner. It was either dinner or lunch, and she gets upset that he even showed up, and then she's like, all right, it was for lunch, actually, and she said, I'll make it a working lunch. But you can see she's getting a little testy with him with Lundy around. And Lundy even admitted that he's there because Deborah's there. Well, not that he's completely there, but he's happy to find that the killer chose their city because she's there. There was one other short storyline here with the vacation killers. They think that they are closing in on the suspect. That's when Batista and LaGuerta decide to make an afternoon out of it, go check out where the person's accomplice might be, and they decide to go get a room together, sleep together, have some fun, get lunch, and then they went to go find these people, and there's actually a shootout. So they find the suspects when they're knocking on their door. They're actually out in the parking lot, and as they come down, they do get shots towards them, and the people take off in a vehicle. They have to call it in, and then LaGuerta's like, we're going to end up having people question why we didn't come back right away and why we were gone for 2.5 hours. And so he said, well, we'll say we got lunch, we got a flat tire, and then we came back. So that's what we have going on with this episode. Lots of little storylines. We've got the Trinity Killer storyline moving forward a little bit. There was also one thing I forgot to mention with the Trinity Killer is there he had a little what I would call ritual in this episode. After he killed the girl, made the girl jump, he had a vial of ashes, and he took his finger and put a thing up by her hand, and not on her hand, but on the ground. And later on, it shows him in a room with a couple of chairs, a couple of glasses. There's a picture of a really old picture of somebody in black and white. Looks like could be someone's daughter sitting on the thing, as well as an urn. And he pours some of the ashes in the urn, pours a drink, and says, "You're next," or something along those lines. So we got a little bit of a ritual going on with him. But that's it for this episode. We'll find out what happens in episode 4. Again, this is going to be a pretty epic season of Dexter, and we'll see what's going on. So I appreciate everybody who's watching. Please like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new recaps go up. I do appreciate it. Thanks.